This is the early evening of the 15th of July, 2024. Clip on BoobTube put up by Occupy Democrats. FBI drops bombshells about Trump shooter. Plays for 8 minutes and 12 seconds. Sit back and have a listen.
The tragic event in Pennsylvania yesterday has many people looking for answers and others looking for blame. As the portrait emerges of the shooter at a Trump rally in Pennsylvania, it is not coincidental that he fits the most common profile of a mass shooter: white, male, loner, gun fetishist. And what gun is cherished most by gun fetishizers? The AR-15, the weapon he used. Despite the chaos that has erupted from this shooting, where one person is dead, two are critically wounded, the FBI has confirmed that the shooter was 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh. He was shot dead by law enforcement agents on a roof, but some aspects of his background are clear. He was a loner and he was bullied as a teen. Let's listen to a former classmate describe it.
Yeah, you said he was a loner?
Yeah. I want to say he was a loner more because he was quiet, but he was just bullied. He was bullied so much.
And this is high school?
Yeah.
What did they, do you remember at all what they said to him or called him?
No. He was just made fun of, I guess, for the way he dressed or his appearance.
But one thing that we also heard from that conversation is that when we asked what he was bullied for, what this shooter was bullied for, he pointed to his clothing. Apparently, according to this person who says he was a classmate, the shooter would wear military clothes or hunting clothes regularly as he was at school. So
the other description that is consistent is that he was a gun culture fetishist. He was killed wearing a Demolition Ranch t-shirt. Demolition Ranch is a YouTube channel with millions of subscribers that features videos exploring and reviewing the capabilities of various firearms and explosive devices. Now, it'll be easy to get lost in the weeds of Crooks's true political motivations, but those speculations are misplaced. Given the profile that is emerging, Crooks's motivation was death by cop. He was seeking empowerment and notoriety before getting killed. He wanted to be immortalized before he left, as if that fantasy would take away all that was tormenting him. That's not to say that this attempted assassination was not political. It certainly was, just not in the way Republicans want to oversimplify it. This attempted assassination fits into the same politics as Sandy Hook, Parkland, Uvalde, and countless other mass shootings, where a political culture of access to assault weapons is far too easy, and paramilitary and gun culture is promoted as some sort of hyper-masculinity. And as I mentioned, what weapon is fetishized the most? It's the AR-15. You'll notice from watching footage that the Secret Service's assault team does not use AR-15s. And the reason is the AR-15 is not a sharpshooter's rifle. It is instead the rifle of choice for inflicting the most amount of damage in the shortest amount of time. So no, this was not a Trump hater. It is just another in a long list of troubled young white males who sought to escape their torment by turning to the fantasy of empowerment that right-wing gun culture offers. So the Republican Party may want to oversimplify this and do what they always chide Democrats for, playing the blame game. But the fact of the matter is, you are the party that built this slaughterhouse, brick by brick, with first this piece of legislation and that Supreme Court ruling. You cared not a whit when children were slaughtered in our schools, but now you are outraged and looking to take vengeance on the left. And can we just focus on that Republican outrage for a moment? Nancy Pelosi's husband was the victim of an assassination attempt and had to fight off his attacker by himself. But here's what Trump had to say about that vicious attack.
And we'll stand up to crazy Nancy Pelosi who ruined San Francisco. How's her husband doing, by the way? Anybody know? And she's against building a wall at our border, even though she has a wall around her house, which obviously didn't do a very good job.
So you'll pardon us if we don't take your faux outrage to heart, especially as you use this tragic event to score political points at every turn. So far, all we have heard is your outrage, your desire for vengeance, and your demand that we now silence all criticism of former president, convicted felon, and adjudicated rapist Donald Trump. My, isn't that convenient and compassionate, all rolled into one? Still waiting to hear your concern about the person that was killed and those who were critically wounded by a weapon that Democrats have been trying to get off the streets for decades. But yes, go ahead and blame Antifa. I mean, after all, Antifa was responsible for the insurrection. That wasn't an insurrection, was just peaceful tourists walking through the Capitol building, right? In closing, it is important to note that the FBI also disclosed that explosive weapons were found in Crooks's car. Remember that Demolition Ranch also promotes and reviews various explosives on its channel. This is the culture that the right wing cultivates, promotes, brags about, and wants to defend. It is a fantasy culture where the disenfranchised can feel empowered and tormented loners can find escape. And it has deadly consequences. It had deadly consequences in more schools than I can mention. It had deadly consequences on January 6th. And it had deadly consequences yesterday, July 13th. Nobody, but nobody, is expecting the right wing to own up to that. But if you think the left should stay silent while you politicize this to your advantage, then you need to wake up from that fantasy. You are the party that literally took children away from their parents and locked them in cages. And something like 1,000 of them have yet to be returned to their parents. You are the party that refuses to do anything about school shootings except give us your thoughts and prayers. And you are the party that keeps advocating for civil war. Thank you, Marjorie Taylor Greene. So excuse us if we can't muster any sympathy for your faux outrage. But by all means, let us know when you get around to expressing some actual concern for the victims of this shooting. That would be
This guy is obviously a whacked out Democrat. And again, this is clickbait. There's no mention at all about the FBI dropping bombshells about Trump shooter. Again, it's clickbait. That's what these Democrats do. They try to hook you so you can watch and listen. I'll attach the link. Look at it, pass it along, and thanks for listening.